I've probably just come in from work and switched on the set in the den. First, the local big stuff. A member of the police aldermanic committee has been nailed for accepting a bribe from a creamy, smiling restaurateur and club owner who happens to live down the street from me. 2 mayoral candidates are calling each other names. The sanitation workers' strike is waxing ripely into its 2nd week. A black man in one of our yeastier ghettos, slated for urban renewal 9 years ago, has shot his common-law wife and her 3 young daughters. A local supermarket survey has shown that meat prices jumped 11% this past week. The Falcons have lost. Again. It's going to rain. Again. The smirking station ombudsman, the one with the Frankenstein-like hairpiece, whose task it is to preserve, protect, and defend the small consumer by publicly shaming his corporate malefactor, silkily announces that the Ed Fleeg family of Sweet Harmony Drive, this city, is indeed going to get a refund on the chemical toilet that blew up their camper on the interstate last month. The appallingly young critic at large, who resembles a cadet Cuban pimp, blasts a visiting symphony conductor to shards and mispronounces Mussorgsky. Except for the murdered family, surely not the stuff of tears. Rage, maybe, but not tears. Nevertheless, they begin to nibble at my sinuses like demented mice. Then the national news, and out come the big guns. John Chancellor, chanting like a druid who knows a dirty joke, is telling us about Watergate. No inherent grief there, for me anyway. I fiercely love every new morsel and can't wait for the whole suppurating mess to be laid out cleanly, like the seed mass of a rotting pumpkin spread on newspaper, so we can throw the damn thing away. But the traitorous muscles around my mouth quiver. Mr. Kissinger has done a good day's work on the Middle East imbroglio. Gallant, cliff-faced Mrs. Meir smiles her smile of lopsided grandeur. One sinus pings shut like a butterfly valve. An oil slick from a wounded tanker has slimed a section of coast, but area conservationists and kids working together have managed to capture, clean, and save most of the affected seabirds. Close-up of saved seabird. I whiffle, drawing an apprehensive glance from my husband, who had innocently thought tonight's news was the best we'd had in days. David Brinkley says something so utterly sane, acid, and funny about the energy crisis that I wish I'd said it, or written it to my congressman, and a burping sob comes skittering up from behind my ribcage. And then the news is over and the Ham's beer commercial comes on, the one with the shambling, trusting clown of a bear, and I am back scrabbling on my dressing table for a Kleenex. I thought for a while that I was probably having some sort of nervous breakdown. I had always believed that to grow older was to lose the hurting edge of perception, a keen loss, a sad one, but mitigated by some measure of equanimity, a little wisdom, 1 or 2 scraps of tranquility, or, failing those, just a tougher hide and atrophied lacrimal glands. The process, I thought vaguely, was something like the change medical students undergo, which enables them to function in a world of idiot pain. But here was my hide, growing daily older and stretching daily thinner like a squeaking balloon. Here were my tear ducts blooming wetly like ferns in El Yunque. Here I was in the middle of my 30s. You're not getting older, you're just getting better. And on the fine edge of sitting down on the floor of the city's largest department store and wailing for somebody to come and get me because I simply couldn't cope anymore. Nut City, no doubt about it. Then one day, at the advertising agency where I write copy for resorts, real estate developments, and computer software, my friend Lorraine, who has always been my grudging candidate for the best-dressed, coolest, chicest, most unflappable and hung-together woman in the world, said, "I think I'm losing my mind. I burst into tears in the middle of Cactus Flower last night and had to leave the theater. And not only that, I heard on the radio, driving in this morning, that Lindbergh Drive was closed from Piedmont to Peachtree for repairs, and I started hyperventilating." I loved her in that instant like the sister I don't have, because it wasn't war, famine, pestilence, or death that got to sweet Lorraine. It was Cactus Flower and street repairs. my own territorial madness. Since the onset of my 7 o'clock sniveling syndrome, I have thought a lot about why everything is getting under my skin. Lorraine and I talk about it between agency crises, over agency coffee. My husband and I talk about it over sleeping cats and sodden Kleenex. Sometimes he leans to the theory, probably a reasonable one, that the Watergate malaise has crept into the fabric of the nation like a disease and corroded the connective tissue, and that we're all going to end up, in time, blubbering along with Walter Cronkite. I just got it earlier than most. At other times, he simply thinks that some small, vital element, as yet unidentified by medical science, has been left out of my body chemistry, which makes me, I suppose, an emotional hemophiliac. Lorraine alternately inclines to sunspots, positive ions, UFOs, and something in the soil or water, an opposite of the lithium in the soil of the town in Texas where everyone is gently and sweetly happy all the time. Alvin Toffler tells me I'm suffering from future shock. Robert Coles and R.D. Lang have some interesting theories. Transactional analysis helps me refrain from screaming at my own nearest and dearest, at least some of the time. But John Chancellor and Walter Cronkite won't transact back. I think that's it. I think I've had a bait, as my grandmother used to say, of other people's problems without a chance to talk back. They live in a walnut veneer box behind a screen in my den. They posture on a screen in my neighborhood theater. They lurk behind the dashboard of my car or inside coats of newsprint and ink armor. They come in and out of my life and bang the screen door every day of my life to anger me, touch me, amuse me. But I can't get to them, to rebut, comfort, or laugh with them. There are all these people in my den, in my head, in my life, and they are all asking for my time and my attention and myself, and we haven't even been introduced. Their lives are laminated away from me. And so I run for comfort to my own life, like I run to my refrigerator for Rocky Road ice cream when I can't balance my checkbook. I know what it tastes like. That's all I do know, really, the taste of my life. It is, God knows, a disorderly thing, arrhythmic, skittering, blattering around like an irregular pulse. But it is orderly in its ordinariness. It is reassuring in its familiarity, and it is mine. I own it. I can keep my finger on it. I can tot it up and leaf through it. Nobody can fool around with what there's been of it so far. My life is built of sequences, hinged pieces that fit together like a vertebra. That simple, that intricate. Days, months, seasons. They are as comforting to tell as a rosary. They are talisman. I am a bead rattler, a kisser of elbows, a don't stepper on of cracks. It doesn't matter. These days, months, seasons serve me well. A year is a fine thing, anybody's year. Here is one of mine. I dedicate it to everybody else who cries at the 7 o'clock news. Whee! The jury. The city had scarcely finished picking up the debris from the great ice-capade when two things happened, one to me and one to the city. I received my first summons for jury duty, and like a child sticking its tongue out after setting fire to the garage, winter dealt us a small snow. By virtue of the precept directed to me, you are hereby commanded to appear before the presiding judge of the Superior Court of Fulton County, courtroom 404 in the courthouse in the city of Atlanta, to be sworn in as a petite juror, said the blue wisp of officialese in the mailbox. Hoo boy, now you're really going to get the old slice of life, said my husband, an ardent judiciophile who has never served on a jury. It's a civic duty we are happy to have you perform, said my employers. You'd better leave an hour early if you want a parking place, said my practical lawyer father, who is in and out of the courthouse several times a week. Do make friends with some nice lady, said my gentle mother.